In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to work Kitchener stitch, which is a way of grafting two sets of live stitches together to create an invisible join between those two pieces. So I'm going to use this dark blue yarn to do the grafting with, and you can see I have two different colors here for the samples. That's just so you can get a sense of where I am inserting my needle. So I'm going to call the stitches on the blue needle my front needle, and the stitches that are on the back needle my back needle. When I refer to going up a stitch like a knit, that means I'm inserting my tapestry needle as though I was about to knit that stitch. And if I say like a purl, that means I'm about to purl the stitch. So my needle generally for a purl stitch would come down. Okay, to set up for the grafting, you begin by taking your yarn on the tapestry needle and going down the first stitch on the front needle as though you were going to purl, and leave that stitch right there. Then you're going to go up the first stitch on the back needle as though you're about to knit the stitch, bring the yarn through and leave it there. And I'm just going to make sure my grafting yarn is behind the needles, that I'm working sort of underneath them. Okay, so that's the setup. We went into the first stitch like a purl and left it, and the first stitch on the back needle like a knit and left that one. My next step is to go into the first stitch on the front needle like a knit and take the stitch off, and then go into the next stitch that's on the front needle like a purl and leave that stitch on. Okay, then I'm going into the first stitch on my back needle like a purl and taking it off, and then into the next stitch on the back needle as though I'm about to knit the stitch and leave that on. Okay, so it's these 4 steps: front needle as if to knit, take it off, front needle as to purl, leave it on, back needle as to purl, take it off, back needle as to knit, leave it on. Now you'll notice I do each of those steps. I do steps 1 and 2 on the same needle, and then I do 3 and 4 on the same needle. So I go into the first stitch like a knit on the front needle and take it off, but I don't bring that all the way down the yarn yet. I then insert my needle into that next stitch like a purl from the front needle, and then I bring my yarn through. So I'm saving myself a little time by not taking a stitch off, bringing the yarn through, and then doing the next stitch. I do it as kind of these 2 steps combined. So down this stitch like a purl, and then without sliding that all the way down my needle, I then go into the next stitch like a knit and leave it on, and then I bring my yarn through. Now I'm not paying much attention here to my tension, and I'll show you what to do with that in a moment. But for now, let's just do a little more grafting. Knit, purl, there you go, and purl, knit for the 2 back stitches. So the first stitch on each needle always comes off. So as a knit, it comes off. The second one stays on. As a purl, leave it on. As a purl, take it off. As a knit, leave it on. And the first needle starts with the knit, and then a purl, and the back needle starts with a purl, and then the knit. So that's generally how the grafting goes. Front knit off, front purl on, back purl off, back knit on. So this is for stockinette stitch. I just took my needle off because I'd like to show you how to adjust the tension. You'll see I'm running out of yarn here. So what I'm doing here is I'm adjusting the stitch size starting all the way from the right edge and pulling these stitches to match the rows above and below so that I can get a really nice clean look here. So this looks seamless, or it looks in this case like a stripe. But if these yarns were all the same color, you wouldn't see any seam or any join. Okay, so here we go. We can adjust the tension a little bit more as we go, but here, and I just want to talk a minute about how I hold the needles. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting my pointer finger between the needles, and then pinching my thumb and my middle finger on either side. So I've made a bit of a sandwich, like a triple decker. All right, and that for me helps so that I can just go front knit off, front purl on. And if you want, you can start adjusting your tension as you do the graft, so that you don't end up with the big loopy loops. Oop, I have a twisted stitch. Let me fix that. Down. For me, I just get into the groove and I start going so fast that I don't realize how loose I'm leaving the stitches, and then I just rely on adjusting the tension manually at the end. But if you want, you can try to keep those stitches nice and tight and close to one another, so that you don't have to adjust the tension manually at the end. Or that you don't have to adjust it as much, I guess. Usually there's always a bit of adjusting that one has to do. Let me just speed through. So here, I'm on the last stitch of each needle. I'm just going to front knit off, and then back purl off. And that finishes up the graft, but you'll see again, I have funky tension. So I'm going to take my tapestry needle and use that to help adjust the stitch size so that it matches the row above and the row below and looks inconspicuous in here. So what we're doing when we're grafting is we're essentially stitching in by hand a new row of knitting. And as we do that, we're joining two live pieces of fabric of our knit. Happy knitting!